It's 12 o'clock. Let's call the regular meeting for Economic Development Wednesday.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
God, no. Oh,
May 28th.
We'll go May 28th instead of February.
Typo.
Yep, no problem. I can't believe I read that. Please call roll.
Pokrzywinski.
Here.
Black.
Here.
Stai.
Here.
Grinde.
Here.
Hecht.
Here.
Horken.
Here.
Helms.
Here.
All right, approval of minutes from 4/23/25 regular meeting.
I'll move.
All in favor?
Need a second.
I second it.
I wasn't here, I can't.
I wasn't here either.
Were you sure you were here?
I'm positive.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Same sign. Thank you. Bills and communications, review of accounts payable, May 6, 2025. Any questions, refer them to Carla, please. And we need an approval and a second from somebody that was here.
We're all here, so I'll move.
Oh, yeah, it's a different date, ain't it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? I'm having a hard time, I forgot my glasses. Reports, delinquency updates. Yeah. I get them in the right angle, I can get some of them. You have none, right?
There's none.
All right. Director's reports.
All right, so we had a little bit of time in between our last meetings. So there's been a lot of good stuff that's been happening. I've been meeting with a lot of different housing entities. There's about a little over 4, and some of them are very qualified, and some of them are working on being more qualified in terms of building some multifamily housing, which is great. So I spent a lot of time helping one specifically because they're applying for the Minnesota RFP consolidated 9% tax credits and deferred loans, which we learned that they offer that every year, which is awesome. So if they don't make it on this first round, we can try again next time. It's good practice also to get it in. So it's been a lot of work on that in terms of housing. And then in terms of reaching out to the community, been doing a lot of, I guess, cross-pollination, you could say, between different entities like the Community Foundation through some of their strategic planning and their fund advisory programs. We went over to Crookston and participated in one of their child care events that they had, which led to working to build a grant application that came out from St. Paul, Minnesota St. Paul Foundation, and we applied for that. So there's been just a lot of good action and interaction that's been going on. We took a tour of the American Crystal Sugar Plant, and that was really fun and very maze-like. I feel like I would get lost if I worked there every day, or probably fall into a pit somewhere, but it was good overall.
Any questions for Maggie? Thank you. Financial reports. Once again, Carla.
Thank you, President and the board. Everybody got emailed the reports for each fund, and then in the packet we have the cash of each account. Normal activity between bills and revenue collected. So if there's any questions.
Any questions for Carla?
I'll just comment that our next meeting, we should have our 2024 year-end financial report completed, and we'll share that. We won't go through the whole report, but he can email it to you, so if you choose to look through the whole report, but I will bring it with in case they have questions.
Any questions? All right. I'll All in favor of that? All good?
I need to vote.
Thank you. Let's see, social media reports.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of great engagement, interestingly, from non-followers. We've had a lot of likes and shares from them. And also, we have a showcase post of Daniel today, so please make sure you like and share that as well. Ben was featured, and he had a great one, and I want to say you were featured too recently.
Yep.
So Brenda's been doing a good job keeping all the different
Very good job,
businesses.
Brenda.
And it shows up in the newspaper too, which is nice because then we get that kind of different audiences taking a view of the different businesses. So it's been going really well.
Excellent. All right, unfinished business, border cities, employer credits.
Okay. Last time we met, there was some interest expressed in mimicking what Moorhead does for their border cities utilization of the employer credits because we use it for like property tax and sales tax. And they use it strictly, it looks like, for workers' compensation. And I also looked at Dilworth, and I think that they also use it similarly as Moorhead. But if we wanted to expand that utilization to include workers' comp credits, I made like a draft program description that kind of encapsulates how they use it if we wanted to use it in the same fashion.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Would we have any type of employer has to have so many employees or anything like that in order to use the credits?
I don't know. And I don't believe Moorhead has statutes on how many employees minimum. So it could be something where if it's like a 3-person entity and it relieves some of their workers' comp costs, that could be like a huge savings to them. I want to say that Amy said that some people submit it for $500 a year and some submit it for the cap of, I believe, $30,000. So they get kind of a swath of requests.
How much do we have available for a program like that?
So we have our border cities, just the whole pot that we have, and I want to say it's like $484,000, and they give us like an installment every other year of about $104,000. So we can use that, or we can have it in our back pocket as an option. We don't necessarily have to change how we currently use the program if we want to add this into it.
And the only reason I ask is because I could see that that amount could get eaten up pretty quick.
Right.
It'd be, yeah.
I mean, if you're,
That was
especially
my
with a cap
question,
of
yeah.
so much, so I don't know if we want to allocate some towards that and then have maybe a variance of how much can be used for each business based on number of employees. Just so we still have some of those tax credits available for other things that we want to use them for businesses too.
Don't want to eat it all up in one shot.
It's been vital to stay competitive the way it's been used now, is my opinion. As far as with business,
Sure.
North Valley
Makes sense.
Machine, RJ Zavro and Sons, go down the line of people that have received it. I think it offers you something that you can give to some of those larger employers, but that's my opinion on it.
And the employer said that this is a good idea for them and that this works for them? I'm just curious.
Moorhead, I mean, they submit, I want to say, $200,000 each year in the request for this to help them. We've not used it here locally, so I can't attest to its
How does it
efficacy.
actually work? I'm just confused on how it actually works, the program. I mean,
Yeah.
does somebody say, oh, my employee had to get workers' compensation, so it's costing me X amount of dollars, and you're going to give me $1,500 back for that employee? Or is it my overall general workers' compensation that I pay to the state on a yearly basis is X, and I'm asking you for $1,500, and I haven't even had to pay out? I'm a little confused on
I think it's based on like your insurance premium, not payout, not if you have claims.
Yeah,
We're looking at it, using it just because, when you look at Minnesota and North Dakota as one, and North Dakota work comp is way cheaper being a monopolistic state. Their
Right.
work comp goes through the state, and they're only one of 4 states that do it that way. But everything else, like Minnesota goes through private insurance companies, which is more costly than North Dakota. Help us stay a little bit more competitive there, which I think it's good use of those credits as well. But I think like Ben said is we still want some of those credits available for the property tax relief or something like that, trying to entice a business to come to town or stay in town or whatever. Yeah, whatever. That we don't want to eat up all those credits on just work comp reduction
Oh, yeah,
rates.
absolutely not. And the plan too, in my mind, is to just earmark at least $100,000 to just sit there as like nest money in case something does come in that we want to be able to incentivize. The drawback though is there's been plenty of years we've not given any border cities money, so it's just sat there, which is all well and good. However, as the state, they may look at and say, hey, you guys aren't utilizing your funds
So you don't need
effectively,
it.
and then we're going to yank it. So,
I definitely think we should allocate some funds towards it, but I also think that we should have categories based on number of employees, based on how much you can get. Because then you look at, you take some big companies like Ben just named off, and their work comp bills are probably astronomical.
right.
And you can get some other companies that maybe they still pay 10, 15, 20,000 a year in work comp premium, but are we going to give them, almost all of what they have to pay?
And then your rates are different if it's office personnel versus in the danger
I think-
zone and.
So
To support Justin's comments, if I could just add a couple of details on Moorhead. The distinct differences between how Moorhead uses border cities and how we traditionally have is one, in Moorhead, the enterprise zones that qualify for the border cities credit is geographic in nature. It's limited by geography of the city, and the city council in Moorhead has to go to levels of establishing enterprise zones. In East Grand Forks, the entire city is the enterprise zone. So the swath of eligible businesses is much broader here than in Moorhead.
Right.
That's one distinct difference. The other distinct difference is, to Ben's point, the Border Cities program is really the best, and in a lot of cases, the only tool we have to promote expansion with that property tax reduction when somebody wants to make a big expansion. Moorhead doesn't use border cities in that way. They use border cities primarily for this employer credit to the businesses that are eligible, and they have a completely separate city-funded tax exemption process that they follow, that they just offer basically a tax abatement to businesses that make an expansion. And our city hasn't adopted that. We've been using a Border Cities program in that nature here. So I think both your comments, Ben, Justin, are really spot on with this, and that there's probably a carve out of our Border City dollars that makes sense to broaden the use. As Maggie's referenced, there's been a few years we haven't used it at all. And I think we've been really protective of the dollars to make sure that when a company wants to make an expansion, that we have a balance there to be able to extend to them. But it's a great idea, learning how Moorhead's doing it, because they are spreading the credits to more businesses and helping with those worker comp buy downs to make it more competitive with our neighbors in North Dakota.
Yeah.
So when we do the expansions, do we know roughly what we've given out of that account when we do expansions?
Yeah, we track it. I have the spreadsheet, goes from 98 until current, and it ranges anywhere from like 30,000 to 150. Or sorry, 149.9, because then I believe after that point, then you have to do the reporting.
So do we want to leave, rather than 100,000 in there, or do we want to leave 149? Just so that we have, I'm just trying to figure out how much we leave in the account and the rest of it. I mean,
And there's a certain amount of it that is on the books that will get paid over the next few years, I'm assuming, out of that 400 and
Yes,
whatever
there's two
thousand?
companies that are receiving it for 2 years and 3 years, but that's already subtracted out.
That is out of that total?
So like on my spreadsheet it is. I don't know how they
Okay.
do it at the state, but
Okay.
if we start using it this way, is there a possibility that the state could look at it, or we could
Give
go
us
back to the
more?
state and get more?
that's what we're trying to do. So when we testified in February with Moorhead, Dilworth, and I can't remember if anyone else joined us, but we requested modernization of the language as well as an additional appropriation, because it's only $750,000 spread between 5 communities. and it goes quick.
Oh, God, yeah.
So in that case, would you cap this at like $50,000 a year? Is that, or do you have a?
For the
For this
credits,
portion of
for the
it?
credits, Moorhead caps it at 30. I wouldn't
No,
go-
I'm saying total out of our fund, or what would you?
I would probably do like 30, just so there's interstate continuity, at least
Okay.
if, or inter-community continuity, so if you went to Moorhead, it would be the same thing. And also, I don't want to necessarily make that program the sole focus of it, but again, like, you guys can help
I think,
shape it.
to me, it sounds like 30 is a good starting point. Adding in some of the stuff that Justin and Ben talked about makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's no reason why we can't start this way, and then we can review it in a year and see if it still
Viable.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it would be interesting, too, we start using it, and then we ask the businesses, is this actually helping you? Mm-hmm. I mean, because that would be the biggest question to me is does this help the business? I would imagine yes. But, you know, we've said that kind of stuff before, and we've been wrong. So that's,
Sometimes it's the paperwork required for $1,500.
Yeah.
It's a lot of paperwork sometimes to do it. Or can it be for new businesses coming in? Like, this is an
Yeah.
incentive for the first 2 years of a new business, starting 6 months in, to help alleviate some of your work comp.
Or if you're adding a staff member, there's a lot of different ways we
Yeah.
can shape it depending on how you want to see it.
So I think the main question was not, there's two questions. How much do we give per business?
Mm-hmm.
And then what's that total chunk every year, which I think that was Ben's
Yeah.
question was, you know, we've got, what is it, 400 some thousand in there? Do we want to do 100,000 every year, and then once we hit 100,000, then nothing else for businesses until Jan 1? I think that's
That is my question.
his
Thank you.
question
Yep.
versus, you know,
Okay.
do we want to do 30,000 per business?
How many businesses are eligible in these enterprise zones in Moorhead number compared to if you looked at all of them? Because that $30,000 or whatever they're saying, and that's a cap per business, or is that a cap for the fund?
It says with the program maximum of $15,000 per business, but I believe they, where did that 30,000 come from then? I might have to look more into that, because I remember they said 30,000.
I'm wondering if that isn't the total out of the account.
But that would be light, it would
Yeah.
seem like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
it might be light for them based on their enterprise zones and what businesses are.
right,
It might be the right amount for them because of the enterprise zone, sorry.
Right.
But if I'm not
But for
mistaken,
us, it
they
might be
receive a
light.
bigger portion than we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're receiving more of that 750,000 than we are, so.
They may have smaller businesses that need less of it.
sure.
Maggie, you said our annual appropriation is about 104,000.
Yeah, and I think it comes every other year, at least based off of the tracking that I've seen from, like, letters from the state.
That's where I went to the 50,000.
Right.
It
That's where my head
basically
is
supports
too.
itself.
We recognize we have a bigger balance, but that balance is there because we haven't used it on an annual basis.
And if you start to chew down that bigger balance with some of the
Yeah.
bigger tax credits, that leaves you still just using what you could for a program like
coming
this.
and
Yeah, right. I don't know.
Yeah, so you could, in essence, keep the balance and then just do the 50 for the next couple of years, and you'd still have that 484 in there.
Right.
I like that idea of doing that. That way, then we still have the balance. If a business shows up, we can still provide
I think we have
relief.
to lower our
Yeah.
cap then because it can be gone in 3 businesses pretty quick.
Or put stipulations of like, are you adding staff? Is this a retention method? Are you a new business?
I don't know if I like it that way as much as, I mean, sometimes we just need an incentive for a business to stay here too. And using those credits for that, for a company that has, I mean, I can't imagine what your guys' work
Yeah.
comp bill is. I mean, for some of the companies I work with and know how much they pay, I mean, if you're gonna give a 30,000 max, there's plenty of companies in town that would pay way more than that, that would meet that. So I also think that part of it would have to be, you'd almost have to have part of the application of knowing what they pay, because we're not gonna pay 100% of your work comp bill either.
Right.
So depending on number of employees, what you already pay for work comp,
I think they ask you.
and to make it what you become eligible for. But still, if we only allocate 50,000 for that, it can be gone
Yeah.
really quick.
But at
Or
least
can you
it's
only apply
helping.
1 year at a time? or I thought I read somewhere in there was like
Yeah.
a 1 year, you can only do it 1 year.
One length.
But even if you only apply 1 year at a
1 year.
time,
One term.
you're gonna have a handful of bigger businesses eat up that whole amount really quick.
You could
No,
probably-
you just lower your cap.
You could look at something where, what's their premium? How much are they requesting? What percentage of, say, gross revenue is that workers' comp bill? And you can slice it up that way. And do you give the funds out right away when somebody applies for it? Or is this something at, we have a 2-month application period, and then depending upon the number of businesses that apply, then you can, divvy up those funds proportionately to all the businesses. That way you're not looking at, say, like a larger business
Right.
that just like takes all of it. And then you have somebody that's smaller, that their workers' comp bill may be a larger portion of their overall revenue. So it might be,
It looks like that's what Moorhead does. October 1st gives them 3 months to figure out till the end of the year what's going on. And
And then it has to all go through deed, and deed has to approve it, and the Department of Revenue has to approve it, and then
There's
they
the
get
paperwork.
they get an approved thing, and then they get the tax filing form. So it's kind of a lengthy process. It takes about a year.
Oh, my.
Process takes a year?
Just about, yeah, because when you put the thing in, we put them in, well, I guess Paul got them mid-July. He submitted them in October. They were approved in November. And then I got the tax filing forms in March to hand out to the companies. So it's about 6 months to a year.
But that's a property tax abatement.
Right, but it's still the
It's
border
still the same
cities.
process.
Yeah,
So-
and they have to get that tax form from the state.
Always a catch.
yeah, but for the businesses that it matters, they'll go through it.
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yep.
And have the staff to do it, basically.
Yeah. Like you said, Penny, somebody's not gonna do it for $1,500, and
It's too much work.
And to reduce
Yeah.
your work comp by $1,500, if it's that much work for you, your work comp premium probably isn't a lot in the
You'll
first
have
place.
that.
It's a very small amount for me.
Yep, and that's, I mean, obviously you look at if you're a rougher compared to somebody that just has office employees, your rates are way different. So, a company like RJ Zabros or, some of the other ones, bigger companies in our industrial park, they probably would fully take advantage of it. But there's other, contractors. Contractors have higher work comp rates too, that we're not thinking about brick and mortar companies that are still eligible for it as well.
That's valid.
They would probably apply. So I think some of the funds going towards that are definitely beneficial. I think we just have to come up with the right guidelines of how we want to distribute it and how much we want and how to go about it.
Okay.
So we'll probably table this and,
Should we put it to the loan committee to take a look at?
there you go.
Because it kind of seems like an area where they would,
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
yeah. 'cause
Make some
we want to make sure
guidelines.
that we're able to provide that tax and go through it and
Yeah.
sit down, and we want to be able to provide the tax abatement
That
stuff
work
still
for you
too.
too?
That's perfect, yeah.
So there we go. We're going to table it and bring it to the loan committee. Okay.
Okay.
Good conversation, though. Okay, quick recap on items in progress.
All right, try to hunt these down.
I'm looking, I can't see, so.
It's understandable. Okay, items in progress. So still trying to unload the city lots. There's been a couple of people are interested. I'll get a one-off phone call, I'll get an email, send over lots of information about it and the incentive programs, but it's typically just a one-off and I never hear back. So I don't know I'm not sure what's disincentivizing them. I don't know if it's maybe housing, building prices are just not attainable. Someone mentioned they bought a house in Minto, North Dakota, and they thought about moving it to one of these lots. So I sent that to Nancy to consider what the rules are for that, but
That don't sound any cheaper.
yeah, that's what I thought too.
Because you got to strip it all down and bring everything to code. So basically,
Right.
you're bringing a shell, is what you're bringing.
Yeah,
But I think you're right. It don't surprise me that this year is kind of a back burner. I mean, just as it was announced today with Freddie Mae and them that, you know, like, might go back independent.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's gonna change things. So I think there's a lot of balls in the air.
And
Everybody's-
interest rates are high.
Yeah, and
They're
everybody's
not
just-
going down this
Yeah.
year.
And everybody's just kinda hanging on.
A lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
There has been some interest in that Lot 7, which is good. Some people have looked at it in terms of building like a community or maybe a multifamily. So that one's getting a little more attention, which is good. But the other ones are just kind of sitting there. And then aside from the North Star neighbors, which that ribbon cutting will be coming up soon, hopefully you guys can attend. I'll send out some information about it when it becomes available. But there's not been too much action other than that.
And maybe with that too, it's gonna spur some
Hopefully, yeah.
reactions from people, you know?
And then the other thing is Border Cities bill. So while they did not approve the additional allocation of funds for it, one bill did include the modernization of the language, the other one didn't. And then the legislative session convened and ended, and nothing was really decided upon. So the champions in Moorhead are working on navigating this through conference committees, which hopefully something is resolved in that capacity. We're really thankful. There's senator and representative were very helpful in supporting this bill, at least for our committee, or our community, in terms of expanding it and kind of being more inclusive, because it does preclude a lot of industries that are recreational quality of life with this program, which is unfortunate because we could definitely benefit from including them. So we'll keep championing that effort. And then I mentioned too that there's housing developers that are working and trying to help them. And then the grants, we have that one Minnesota tax credit one, that 9% that's in progress. I'll be meeting again with them today, this afternoon. And then we did submit that childcare Tri-City grant request to basically build on top of what we're currently doing and add some more training and more retreat opportunities and connecting our communities with legislatures and then federal kind of guidance, so that way they can be fortified and sustainable in terms of the services they provide. Last cool one is the endowment fund. So I'm always looking for more tools to put in my toolbox, and we had talked with the Northwest Minnesota Foundation about, could we start, a endowment fund, because the mayor was saying maybe this is a possibility that would be helpful. So while the EDA cannot give grants, we could theoretically run grants through an endowment fund, which could be helpful for like beautification, facade, renovation, different small projects if we ever want to do like a scholarship or something. So I met with both our local community foundation in Grand Forks, East Grand Forks, and then the Minnesota Northwest Region one. They are similar. The difference being that Northwest Minnesota does 5% is the return on interest, and the Grand Forks one does 4%. They both come with fees. The difference between the two, cost-wise, would be $97.10. So I guess it's just a matter of, do we want to have something closer with potentially less competition? Because we ran into this problem with this Fortify grant, is we try to write it and use the Northwest Minnesota as our fiscal agent, and they're like, we can't do that because we have several who are applying for the same grant. Whereas if we house an endowment fund outside of Minnesota, we might have a little bit more flexibility in applying for grants. So something to consider. The minimum endowment is $10,000. It's either getting 5% or 4%, and they said that both of them you can keep rolling the interest as you go. So maybe by the time I retire, if we haven't spent any of it, we can have a beautiful endowment fund. So I don't know if that's of interest, but that was something I explored and can continue working on if that's something worth pursuing.
So you looking for an answer on that, or?
What did I put on that thing? Okay, so it does come up a little bit later in the agenda.
Oh, on the endowment fund, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, there I see it. Okay, we'll move on then. Discretionary loan account.
Okay, so the initial request to council was just to take the funds that we're getting off of so we have revolving loan funds, we have 4 of them, they're generating interest, and the interest is generating interest, so it's a secondary source of interest. the ask was to move those secondary interest funds into a different account to have it wrapped into the final audit. And then the next ask would be, do you guys approve of that? And then the ask after that would be, do we want to use this for lending? And if so, what kind of programs would we like to do? This will require multiple steps and public hearings, but if this is of interest, this could potentially make us more competitive with North Dakota because they have the JDA and Growth Fund, which have quite a accessible amount of money to help their businesses expand and buy down interest rates and do different projects, microloans. And we currently just have the border cities in the gap lending. And I would like to have something else I can offer people, even if it's like, a $5,000 loan program where somebody wants to, fix some flooring or something. We can at least assist somehow. So does this sound of interest? Is this something worth pursuing?
Again, it'd come down to the paperwork.
There's no shortage of that.
Yeah.
It's our paperwork, though, so
Oh,
we can make
sure.
it, we don't have to send it to the state or anybody, so.
this would be
It should be
through the city.
something we put together.
Yeah.
And the council has approved this fund, so
Sure.
we don't have to worry about their approval. It's just that we want to make sure everybody here approves it and what the use is.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, we've approved transferring the funds, but we still need to iron out the process and who can get it, what it's for. How much can we loan out without going through city council, or do we want city council to always be involved in approving it? All those steps need to be ironed out.
Yep. And so I put down those questions too that had come up during that work session of like, are there cap levels? A question came up of like, does the city council approve all the loans? And then I was like, I should probably run this by EDA because then that might kind of disqualify why we exist. Do we keep the same gap lending caps that we apply to this? So more just, is this something worth pursuing? And if so, then we can begin the steps on it. If not, then we can can it.
I thought there was an amount that we are required, like whenever we approve something, isn't there a top level amount that we can approve ourselves and then from there, then it has to go to the city council?
No. Because we already have that authority.
Right.
Right.
See, and I don't remember, I'd have to go back and look, but I thought this group had the authority to do pretty much anything that it wanted to do on its own, other than you need to get ratification on selling city lots, or city property as opposed to EDA property.
Correct.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
And so then when it went to I just kind of sat and listened, because when it went to the council, all of a sudden it was a discussion of if the loan approval is going to go through the city council. And my comment was, well, then what's the point? Why is the EDA sitting there with a couple of council members on it?
Yeah.
If everything's got to come back through for a loan approval, especially if it's going to be a $5,000 loan or
Yeah, and
or
does the city
whatever,
council even really want to deal with that?
you know.
Yeah.
So
And the
it just
time it
depends
takes to
upon how
get
you set
that
it up.
Correct.
to the
It's an
business.
extra layer of bureaucracy
Right.
that
Yeah.
isn't really needed, I don't think.
So from what I'm kind of gathering and looks on faces and everything is scrap the P42? Scrap the idea?
Well, this went through the loan committee.
No.
The loan committee talked about it, and they thought this was a good thing because we don't have anything in an avenue to make like a purchase for a machinery. You know, somebody's $10,000 for a machine they need to expand their business. This would be something we could loan this to them for 5 years, 7 years, and they don't have to go through the gap financing. The collateral would be the machine, and we don't have any of those funds available in our EDA funds. So when we talked about it, that was one of the reasons, one of the things we talked about would be a prime example.
If that's for equipment, let's just say out of an example like that, wouldn't we end up being secondary on that?
Yes,
And
you would.
do we want to get involved in being a secondary on a
Well, we are secondary on our loans now.
But
Yeah.
with that piece of equipment, what are we gonna do? I mean, seriously, there's no collateral, if you ask me.
Or personal.
The bank's gonna have the number one on a piece of
Yep.
equipment that's being depreciated over time. You know, it'd be different if you were gonna be, like you were saying, if you have
Floor.
$5,000 for somebody that could replace a floor, it's just a loan, you know, you don't have any collateral there either, but you're not
out a bunch.
You're not gonna lose a bunch of money either.
Correct.
And this was money that's just, it's interest being made on interest, that's not doing anything. So that's,
Correct.
we're just trying to put it to work to help, basically. I mean,
I think right now it's not accessible, right?
I don't know.
In 2025, it's accessible. Yes.
I like the idea.
But it's accessible.
I do, and I mean, if we're talking about doing small things to help businesses expand, I mean, anytime we give a loan, there is a risk there, and if we're risking secondary interest money.
Well, and we're
And it can
not
help.
talking a huge amount when it comes to.
No, we're not, I mean, but
I
these,
just don't wanna get into borrowing for equipment and
Yeah.
then we're,
It could be something like a kid is starting up a business and they need a QuickBooks license and it's $150, but they don't have that money to generate invoices. So it could be small amounts. I mean, we could set caps on it. I did a very rough working one.
Minimum as well,
Yeah,
because I don't want to loan out $150 to some kid and
yeah.
have, you know, city staff have to go through that paperwork.
right.
To go do all that stuff, so I think there needs to be, you know, maybe it's $1,000 is
Or
the
you want
minimum.
to paint the
And then
theater or the
a maximum
restaurant or.
You know, 10,000.
Projectors,
but with today's interest
50
rate
to
climate,
100,000.
Oh, yeah.
any additional
But I
money
mean, if you
available at
could
lower interest is gonna help.
Go by that
businesses.
for.
well, and that's my thought too, and we always talk about
Low expense.
what we're gonna do
Is it low
to
interest?
retain businesses and
Maybe
help
low
expand
interest.
them.
Right, that's very helpful.
I mean, this seems like a pretty good deal in terms of helping businesses that are already here, existing businesses.
Correct.
Yeah.
So-
I think,
It's 61,120.
I'm thinking to Ben's
Something.
point, I think, you know, more than anything, is you
143.
gotta figure out what you wanna use it for. You know what I mean? Because 60,000, depending upon the circumstance, you can give it all to one person again. You know, or what is the purpose of the fund? You
And do
know, and I
we-
think that this group has to figure out what you really wanna make for a purpose of the fund.
Yep.
I think we also want
And
to
then it's
limit,
easy after that to figure out
Well,
caps or process or.
I don't disagree, but I also don't want to pigeonhole this type of thing too into these are the only things that we're going to do and this is it. I mean, if somebody comes with an idea that we haven't thought of in this room, I mean, that's where I kind of see the benefit in this is maybe there's some stuff out there that we've been unwilling to do in the past or we just don't know about, nobody brings it to us. So then we want to hear about it and we can always say no.
Right.
Uh,
I mean, we don't want to necessarily.
so you're saying
Rather than
just
put it in
a
a box
full-on
like that.
discretionary loan fund.
That would be my thought is to make it more discretionary.
Yeah, I'd rather see, instead of putting it in a box of what we'll do with it, of having it open and just saying a minimum and a maximum. Whether it's 10,000 max and 1,000 minimum, so we're not wasting our time on paperwork for $400 or $500.
think
But
if there's
also not
other
giving it all
funds-
to one person.
If there's other funds that are earmarked for whatever someone's coming from, we direct them to that fund first.
Right, yeah, we have other avenues
Yep.
if people want more than $10,000 for things, we have other loan funds available for that, where I think we should just set a minimum, maximum, and see if people need that, you know, only for a couple years, small item purchase, something, whatever it is, and go with it, see if we can help.
Do you want to set it up so where it's, say, it's 60,000 right now, do we only want to loan out 50% of that money at any one time and let that other 50%
Roll again.
continue to accrue interest, so the fund is always sort of growing, but I think we're also
Yeah,
taking this interest every year and putting it
Yes,
into the account
yes,
as well.
yes, from the same funds every year. The council approved us to do that.
Yeah.
So you know, we look at what the city has got for interest as a whole, and then we divvy up it among the accounts and the cash fund, and the average for the year. And then we put interest in there, but the interest wouldn't go to these same funds that are listed, it would go into this discretionary fund. So it will grow every year.
We don't hold back anything in it, because we'd be getting repayment year
just
after
a
year,
loan
plus more interest going back in.
Is the account is sitting in also revenue generating? Does it have an interest?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
since there's cash in that account, we would put interest in there. So it's going to get interest for its own money in there, and then interest from those other funds that are listed that's in your packet.
I mean, and the other part is too, is if it's discretionary and it's all gone, but
Could it be like 2 to 10,000, maximum of 3 years? Like put parameters on it or something?
That's what they're.
Yeah. I did like a very
And I-
rudimentary micro loan program. It's got like 2,500 to 50,000, depending on what we want, 5 to 10-year terms, 2.5% interest to 5%. I try to make it as open-ended as possible, just depending on what we want.
just because a business applies for all this amount, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't go to loan committee and they go, yeah, we can only do a third of this, or we can only do half of what you're
Correct.
asking for.
Just
You
like
know,
our funds now that we do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so we would have that discretion as well.
And that'd be great, because then it's open-minded still.
We may find out too that maybe people come to us and there's 6 or 7 different businesses that are like, yeah, we all basically need the same thing. And then we probably need to sit down, we need to figure out, well, can we get a program to actually achieve what they're looking for? Maybe it doesn't fall into this program. But maybe we get a better idea of what the business community's wanting from us or looking to do.
And how do we get that message out?
Probably on my visits.
That would be my
Yeah.
thought. Or Brenda's pretty amazing with Facebook too, so we can always do that.
What was that?
Pretty amazing. I know you want to hear it loud and clear again.
Yes, I did.
If this is of interest, do we want to shunt this to the loan committee to develop the parameters?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Do we have guidance from them? Any kind of guidance that you want? Because
I got lots of time. Thanks, Josh.
Ben,
especially this time of the year, right?
Oh, dear.
so we don't need a vote or anything on that, right?
I think, if anybody wants to put any quick input in on what they want to see parameters right now, though, that she can jot down and bring to us at the loan committee. That way, we're not going to go through a lot of time and try to put something together and bring it back to you guys, and you guys would have rather seen something else. It gives us something to start with as the loan committee.
Yeah.
So,
Go to 25 to
if you
25
guys
to
have
10?
to
certain
10,000.
parameters you'd like to see on a minimum, maximum,
Minimum
years.
of 25,000, maximum of 10.
Give it to me.
For
2,500.
Or 2,500 to 10.
Sorry.
Okay.
2,500 to 10,000. I would say if you did like 3 years though, that would turn that money
That's
over
where-
somewhere
yeah.
it's available.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
That
also
keeps-
when you get like a loan, a lot of times ours, you have to have like, it's only 1/3 available. Would this be able to cover the whole project?
Well, that, and do we want interest on that money? Do we not? On that
Well,
loan?
Yeah.
they would still be interest accounts.
Okay.
But they're lower interest than what you're gonna get.
Correct.
So that's what
Well,
we're
nowadays,
putting in
that
as
don't
being
take much.
beneficial. Yeah.
I actually like the interest that it talks about here. I mean, the standard 2.5% to 5%, but if they repay everything in 12 months, I'm fine with 0% interest. I think
It turns the money.
it
puts
it
money
does
in the
what you're
community.
trying to talk about of turning the money over.
Right.
I like that idea.
And a simple process, maybe not so much paper. I don't know how to explain it, just to make it a little bit easier to access small businesses.
Well, yeah, you don't want to spend $2,500 of your time to get $2,500.
Right, that's what I find a lot of times, the grants and stuff take so much time that it's not even worth my time to do
To
it.
Penny's point, I think this would be something where the loan could cover the entirety of whatever the project is.
Small projects,
Be-
repaint,
because if it's-
remodels.
If I can only get 1/3 of the project from this, then I'm doing, 2 sets of paperwork, which to your point, if it's only
It's not worth it.
$2,500, it's not worth it.
And that's back to what we have for our parameters for our regular program.
Yep.
Right.
Is the 1/3. So this is geared for smaller stuff. I don't have a problem with.
I like the smaller stuff. It's something that a lot of the small businesses don't have available. They don't want to go to the loan to the bank and refinance their whole thing. They just want $5,000. So it's quick, easy, high turnover, lower interest.
Or doing
But not only that too
lighting
is
projects in
you've
offices,
got
whatever.
businesses that they have, cyclical times of years where it's really busy, they got money coming in, but now they might need to do some projects when that type of business is slow and they don't necessarily have the capital to do it, or this can help during that slow time where they have time to do the project, but don't have the capital coming in as much.
That never happens.
So we're really looking at this micro revolving loan policy? I mean, really is what we're looking at, right?
You know,
I guess if you could look at it in anything that we should add or delete, like Ben said, I mean, it's kind of written down. You don't really need to rehash it as a loan committee if we have a lot of it written down and everybody's okay with it.
Right.
well,
And,
yeah, I mean,
or if there's
obviously,
other things to
We
do.
gotta tighten a few things up, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Just go through it.
I don't have a problem if they come to the
Okay.
committee, but like I said, rather than us go through a bunch of things and then bring it back to the board.
Right.
And then go back again.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we like, that's not what we're intending on
No.
this. If
We
we have
want to make
everybody's
it-
input that we can all agree on, then we can
Okay.
bring it, put it together and come.
Yeah,
back
we
to
can
you.
use this.
Right,
Right
because I
here.
think this is pretty spells out what
It
we're
is,
talking
we'll
about.
change some of
Do
the,
we want to do any of these
Yeah.
other things that Maggie's put together?
Because it's no different.
She put down
For
the
you
interest
guys
buy
and
down, she
one
did a
for
matching,
end user, right?
internship
Right,
matching fund.
yeah. So you could do an interest rate buy down where you have like a balloon payment at the end, if that's easy enough. We couldn't grant the money because the EDA can't do that in this state, but we could help to reduce the amount of interest that they pay. This is commonly used in Grand Forks in their Flex Pace and PACE program, except that they have the state bank, which helps buy down a large six-figure portion of it, and then the JDA helps buy down 1% too.
I don't understand, same fund?
Yeah, because it's discretionary, we could use it for that, we could use it for this, you know,
I would prefer. Leave an interest low,
The other stuff looks
set the
nice, but
amounts where they need to be.
I'd
and-
really like to go for this.
Yeah,
I mean, if I had to pick one, it's the micro revolving loan.
Yeah. I
okay,
think
that
that's
helps
that a
us,
motion.
perfect.
A motion to send it to the loan committee to look
Yeah.
at it. Something like that.
thanks, Daniel.
And the only other question I guess I would have is to probably Ron is there anything that, because this is kind of new and everything, is there any restrictions state-wise that we would have that we need to
There's
consider?
any restrictions if you have,
There are not.
if it's coming out of this fund, it's our money, and then it's just our restrictions on policy.
Okay.
That would be the only thing for this right now.
All right, we had the lawyer weigh in, we're good.
We're good.
And then do we want the interest to come into this account each year from the first primary interest that comes off the RLF?
Yes.
Okay,
I would say yes.
That's what, the council already approved that. So-
okay. I didn't know if these guys had to vote on it too, if we need like
Okay.
a double vote.
Shouldn't.
Okay.
I don't think you do.
Oh.
All right.
And then I think long-term, we'll probably revisit the loan amounts.
Yeah, let's just-
As the account grows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And or
it's gonna
what-
allow you the flexibility to do something different.
And then what's coming in and out of it will change everything too.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if no one's using it, you can increase the loan amount.
All right. So potential programs.
We did it. It was just going to be that revolving loan program and then the internship matching ones, that could come out
So
of
it's the
the,
same thing here, stuff that says. Yeah, it is. I see
Yeah.
it. All right, now we'll move on to EDA Endowment Fund.
okay, so this one's the official, I just gave a little bit of update from meeting with the community foundation yesterday. I had made the agenda before I met with them, so with that endowment fund, so again, this would be another project account that could use for different facade and things. So when I talked to the Community Foundation of Northwest Minnesota, they said that they did have two places in town that used it similarly to what we were thinking of doing. Park Rapids and Lake of the Woods, they both used it for like downtown refurb, public art, and then Lake of the Woods had a single person that funded the account, so they ended up using all the funds to make an industrial park and closed out the account at the same time. So there is some pretty cool flexibility if we decide to go with this option. And then the question is, to fund the account, if we wanted to do it, would we pull that from the interest, that secondary interest? Or what would be ways we could fund the 10,000? Because we could also fundraise, get sponsorships, donations. We could get estate bequeathals to help fund this account. So it does give you like that nonprofit flexibility if we had an endowment account.
My only question is how much time and effort is going to be needed to put into it of your time to set this up, to
Yes.
track it, control it.
Raise it, do it, go with it.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think that we have
Not quite there
more
yet.
glaring issues that are more importance of yours rather than dealing with an endowment fund.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about what we need already in town with, more land for industrial park and different things that we need to focus efforts on rather than taking a bunch of efforts to set up an endowment fund. If it's something that you believe you have the time for and it's not, hours and hours on end every week, I'm fine with it. But I don't think we want you utilizing your time towards things that we haven't already outlined that are of importance.
And I agree with that, with what we set forward. When we all, here's what we want to concentrate on for year one. I think we should just stick on that path.
Can we add this to revisit next year at this time then?
Sure can.
Yeah, we can definitely
do
put
that?
this in the parking lot.
Put it in the parking lot.
Okay.
And if somebody wants to give the money, then I guess we'll handle it.
Then we'll figure it out.
That's right. Bring it on.
All
I mean, it's
right.
not bad to have something like that open
But-
in case somebody wants to make a donation towards something in an endowment fund like that. But
And
again, I
yeah.
don't know how much effort it's going to take on your time to set that up.
It seems like that's what happened in those other communities. Somebody had a
Yeah.
project that they wanted to, maybe there's some tax
Yeah.
advantages to doing it this way. So if that comes on our doorstep, we get it.
We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Well, and she's already done half the work, so she knows where to go and what to do.
Well, I mean, the other thing is if you had the fund set up and then just sitting there, whether there was a whole lot in it, then if something came up, you just tell them to dump it into the fund and
That's the other idea.
Yeah.
It's just putting the
It can
money
sit
in there,
dormant.
not doing anything.
Yeah.
So
I will say that,
sometimes they do, excuse me.
Justin, to your question, the endowment itself, we would partner with a foundation that would handle all of the administration of the endowment, whether that be the Northwest Minnesota Foundation or the Greater Grand Forks Community Foundation. An organization like that would handle the finance administration of it.
Okay.
The legwork for Maggie would be recruiting the funds to be put in there, whether that's seed funds or ongoing donations towards a fund like that, so that there was a balance to use.
is there a minimum that you have to start it?
It's 10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be the initial legwork, similar to the child care fund that Northwest Minnesota Foundation has. That took how many years for us to even get to $5,000?
It's true.
So
Is it maybe something we should look into and at least try to set it up? Because if she's doing these business meetings right now, if it's something that can come up with businesses, like Ben says, maybe somebody does have something that they want to make a donation to for a tax write-off or whatever, this is almost a time of where that can be brought up as in her business meetings. So maybe it is a time to set it up then.
it's a good wish list item, I think.
Yeah, and worst case, we can put it in the parking lot and then bring it back to life next year if you want, after we got maybe the work done on the loan, discretionary loan fund. It's flexible, there's no timeline on these things.
I'm just thinking that maybe with all the uncertainty in the economy and everything, we revisit it at a later date, because trying to sell it right now to businesses may not be the best
We're
idea.
talking about for next year, I mean,
Maybe
we're
we
only
should talk
6 months
about,
away.
maybe we should talk about bringing this back and looking at it in November and talking about setting it up during the
And for
winter.
2026.
Yeah.
Work for you, Mike?
Yeah, that works.
All right, child care programs committee,
Oh, yeah, okay.
go get it, Ron. See you, buddy.
Degenerates.
So as we foreshadowed, we finally raised enough money in our child care re-grants fund, which is very exciting. So we're actually able to do small grants now. So with that, we were told by the Northwest Minnesota Foundation that we need to make sure we have 2 EDA representatives on our board, 4 external, and I think 3 committee members. So we're working on the external recruitments, we have the 3 internal, and we just need 2 EDA representatives. So who would like to be our lucky contestants?
I think they should have children if they're gonna be on there.
I think the guys on the loan committee are already falling out.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll volunteer then.
So Maggie, who are the 3 internal?
You, Bree, and I.
Okay, because I'm technically the trustee for this board. So I don't know if that can count or not, if you need it at the time, whatever. Just a thought.
You can't qualify for it if that's what you're asking. It has to be EDA board members.
Well, she is a board member.
But I'm considered the trustee for this board,
Oh, okay.
so if that
I
makes a
don't know
difference.
if you can have a double title.
Well, I don't know how many internal you, or you could have, somebody else internally. This is just an option.
Okay.
If you're not, if there's time constraints or whatever.
I like that. I'm sure there'd be another staff person we could find if Carla needed to fill the board seat.
Okay, that's good to know.
I haven't heard Dale speak up down there.
My kids are all grown and gone.
But then again, you still
Quiet
understand,
down there, just throw them under the bus.
hey, you still understand what it takes for childcare for your grandkids.
Yeah.
But it's just because my wife had a daycare.
There you go.
Really digging yourself a hole here.
Are you nominating yourself, Stump?
What are you going? What's the committee involved?
It's the childcare, the Rural Childcare Innovation Program. This is the re-grants committee, so they help with making decision on who gets the grants, how the funds are distributed.
You get to give money away.
Potentially a little fundraising.
Throw candy. That's, stop
Beat them
it.
up?
That's got your name written all over it.
I don't know, I think the way you're smiling, you'd be pretty excited.
I just was thinking how good you'd be at it.
How often do they meet?
Let's see here.
Once a year.
It's about 2 hours a month.
Oh, so it's not the re-granting committee, it's the actual get on the childcare committee, is that what you're saying?
They'll need to be part of the committee too, so they
Oh,
understand
okay.
how, like, what's happening.
I guess
so
I
they're
was
not-
thinking it was different. I was
So did
thinking it
I.
was just they would be involved in when the re-granting is. So I think if they have to be on the committee, that is probably just best if I do that. So, no, I mean, because it's 2 hours, every month.
It was an estimation on the
Yeah.
time frame because we thought, I think it was Annabelle I spoke with at the county of like, how much time would they need to review the applications, read through them, then have the interviews with the companies that are looking to get the money. And then if
But-
there's any additional
yeah,
fundraising.
But then they're involved, though, in the monthly meeting.
Also.
I mean, ideally, yes, because then they
Oh,
know
okay.
what's happening instead of
Okay.
acting in an insular,
Instead of
system.
going, what now?
Yeah, like who?
Are the meetings in person or are they online?
They're all on Teams.
Sounds like we got
And they're all
our two.
recorded. Okay,
Carla and Dan.
And we can just see how it goes this year.
okay.
How's that? I
Look at
know
stuff
your
you
time
like
is
it.
precious.
Shut your mic off.
I just know your time is precious.
Dale approves the
That's
motion.
our last one.
Huh?
That's our last item.
All right. How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Stump?
We're good.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.